When it comes to Smash Bros. Alternatives, not many are looked at fondly for a lot of different reasons. So with this new series I'm starting, I want to take a look at a lot of old and obscure Smash Bros. Like games and see if we can find some good stuff in the lineup. And choosing what to start with was fairly easy, since there's one game in particular that people remember a lot for its very, very dumb roster. We're starting this series off with a bang! It's Dream Mix TV World Fighters. This game has a weird history. Konami, at the point before this game's development, owned a lot of stocks in Takara, and was also starting to acquire Hudson Soft too. So to generate some interest in all the IPs they had access to thanks to this, they decided to pull a Nintendo and make a fighting game featuring a lot of them. And while Konami still owns Hudson, they did get rid of all their Takara stocks, so yeah. Anyways, to start talking about the game itself, how this is gonna go is, I'll be talking about each character as we go, then talking about the modes. So let's start by talking about the gameplay. This game is fairly similar to Smash Bros, with some key differences. First off, instead of knocking your opponents off the screen or depleting health, you all have the exact same health bar, and by attacking each other you can cause coins to fly out, which you also pick up at the start of the match. And then once you're out of coins, you enter Super Pinch mode, where you have one hit left till you lose, what's basically your soul. And then you have a chance to grab your soul before the other player grabs it, taking you out of the game. If there's a free-for-all, other players can also pick up other players' souls, even if you had yours grabbed, which gets you back in the game. When all players lose their souls besides one, the game's over, and whoever's still standing wins. Another non-Smash Bros. Mechanic is hanging on certain ceilings by pressing jump and up next to one. Not a very interesting mechanic, but it's something. Certain effects can also randomly happen depending on the state of the match and who's in a specific position, like having a coin vacuum effect or wind, stuff like that. Now for how the character's movesets function, there's jabs, forward and up attacks, and there's aerials, but the main difference is that there's a neutral air, an up air that ascends, and a down air that's essentially a dive kick for each character. There is a grab too, but unlike Smash there's no directional throw, and instead you carry the grabbed opponent and throw them whenever you like. There is shielding, of course, and you can also parry attacks if you time it right. Perfect shields before perfect shields. And finally, there's a special button that's the character's main special attack, but for some reason, not everyone has a consistent amount of specials, which we'll talk about as we go through the roster. Speaking of which, starting off Konami with Simon, of course. He's pretty much what you expect. Long range with his whip, and a cross for his specials, where he can spin around himself or throw it straight ahead like a boomerang. The only problem is that his whip hitbox is weirdly small in some areas. He's a bit flawed, but it's cool to see him in a Smash-like game before he was in Smash Ultimate. Power Pro Kun is from Konami's sports series named Power Pros. His range is fairly short, but his special, the fan swing, is really good. In the air it gives him a bit of upwards momentum, and on the ground it can either be a big hit or a charged up spin that can combo into itself. It is pretty dang nuts if you can get a good hit or charge with it. Just don't charge it too much or you'll get dizzy. He's not amazing, but he's an honest, fun character. I like him. Twin B from Konami's slightly obscure Twin B series of shoot-'em-ups is a fairly decent zoner. His forward attack is an extended punch, Rayman style. Wait, Twin B came out before Rayman. And his special attack is in throwing a bell, and which color it is depends on the effect. Yellow is a more standard projectile that doesn't go away after hitting one opponent. The green one is a big fuck-off explosion. The red one spawns a new wall to bounce people off of. And finally, the blue one spawns some more heart coins. Twinbee is a fairly decent character, but the randomness does hinder him a bit more than it should, and his slow walk speed does not exactly help. Snake is probably one of the most famous additions to this roster, and he's actually really good. His normals are all fairly decent, and have a good amount of range, but his special move is where the real sauce comes in. He plants a bomb just like in Smash Bros, but what you can do with it is incredible. You can put it on the ground normally, you can yeet it while in the air, and you can even plant on an opponent while they're grabbed. Snake is absolutely insane thanks to all these aspects. One of my favorites to play. Also, shoutouts to the fact his alternate cousins are from NGS1, 2, Pliskin, and the Tuxedo. I know they're just reused models from NGS2 and Twin Snakes, but still, it's really nice to have them. Our last character for Konami is a Piranha Plant pick for the roster, a Moai from Gradius. They're a reoccurring enemy in the series, and probably the most iconic aspect, especially with how many other cameos they made in other Konami games. His attacks are fairly slow, and so is his ground movement, basically being the heavyweight of the Konami side. His specials are shooting a ring at a random angle, and shooting a bigger one if you press forward. He's overall not really amazing. He's kind of a joke character, and it shows. Also, the Gradius stage is really cool, kind of like the Pac Maze or Mario Bros equivalent to this game. Really like it. Starting off Takara, we have probably the most OP one, Lika-chan. Her toy line was essentially the Japanese equivalent to Barbie. Multiple job-themed outfits, big playout sets, a works. Now what makes her OP is both her normals being really good, and her special attack, which just sucks out coins without doing any damage. While yes, it is possible to get attacked during this, even then you'll probably still steal more coins than you'll lose getting hit. You can also charge it up to steal more on top of that, and have a bigger radius to steal, which means that she's especially broken in free-for-alls when no one's paying attention to her. So yeah, pretty dang busted. Takao Kinomiya, also known as Tyson Granger in the West, is the representative of Beyblade for the roster, as it was just that big back then, and the MC from the anime made perfect sense to include. As a fighter, he's also pretty dang good. Not only are his melee attacks really good, like surprisingly good for a kid just throwing hands and knees, but his special of throwing out a tornado Beyblade not only allows him to control the stage really well, but also avoid grabs and other stuff while hiding in it. And you can charge it to get a much bigger tornado, eventually getting to the top of the stage if you charge up enough. So yeah, really good normals, fast speed, and a kinda busted special. He's probably the number 4 best character in the game. Someone even more busted, and probably the most famous addition to this roster, Optimus Prime, or Convoy as he was called that in Japan before the live action movies. As for Optimus as a character, not only does he have really good specials, a sweep of his trailer, and also charge forward while transformed, his normals allow him to do 2 different infinites, one with his up attack where you can just spam it, and another with his air attacks where you can juggle the opponent if you can keep the rhythm up. Optimus is definitely the second best character in the game. From the second best character to probably the worst character, M121 Mason from the Micronauts/Micromen series. Starting off as a series that was made due to cost of producing action figures at the time was getting higher and higher in Japan, Takara had the idea to make much smaller figures to cut costs and tie the size into the lore, which gave us the Micromen/Micronauts toy line, which you might recognize thanks to Marvel Comics. As for Mason's moveset, his normals are mostly fine, but his up tilt does have a really bad hitbox. One of his worst aspects though is his grab. It not only takes so long to actually grab them, but the range is straight crap. Not to mention his small size makes him have a range problem, even without the hitboxes sucking. His best normal is probably the down air, and his specials, while they have a lot of range, they come out way too slow and predictably to really do anything. And you can't even use them in the air. His best aspect is probably the jetpack, but even then, it's just slow as molasses. Overall, he just kinda sucks. Next we have Asuka, the ninja of the game. At some point, Takara decided to make what is essentially the girls' version of G.I. Joe, and made a doll line of characters that were part of a task force and did basically what you'd expect a task force to do. Named Cool Girls. Yes, that is actually the name. I'm not joking. Asuka, like I said, is the ninja archetype for this game, and she does it fairly decently. She has good normals thanks to her sword having a bit of a disjoint, but she's also really fast, and her specials are really, really good. The firebomb does a lot of damage, and has really, really good range, and you can throw it upwards to get opponents on higher ledges. As for her forward special, it's a weird projectile that shoots off a big explosion when it hits a wall, but it can't really hit any other way. For people who run away a lot though, it's actually a really good tool. Overall, Asuka is pretty good, and much more awesome than some of the other top tiers. And finally, for our last Takara character, we have good old Megatron. And it's a shame to say this, but he kinda sucks. His normals are kinda slow and don't have that great a range. His dropping attack is especially bad, and his special of turning into a gun is kinda decent as it has good stage control with both the bullets that bounce off walls and the big fuck off laser. But overall, his lack of good normals and his big size just really drag him down a lot. It's a shame to say Megatron sucks, but he really does. Starting off the Hudson characters, we have good old Bomberman. He's decent, but he heavily relies on his bombs for stage control, as his normals are just fine. He can have 3 on stage at once, and he can attack them to move them around. Just be mindful of when they detonate. Bomberman is definitely a good, if unimpressive fighter. He has the worst up tilt in the game, though. Almost no forward hitbox. It's up or basically nothing. The second Hudson character on the roster is an interesting one, Momotaro. Hudson at some point decided to make Monopoly/Sugoroku-like game on the Famicom and made the theme in Japanese legends, such as the main mascot of the series, Momotaros, the Peach Boy. The series has not only gone on for so long, having 25 total games, even up to the Switch 2, but also so many spin-offs that are not board games. It is kinda insane just how much the series has done, despite not a lot of people outside of Japan talking about it. As for Momotaro himself, he's just okay. His sword normals are decent, but his jab is a bit weird, and due to his short limbs, his hitboxes are really small, as his sword isn't that much bigger.
That's what she said!
His specials are interesting though. His ground special has him send out one of his friends, a cat, to walk around for a bit, hitting anyone they touch. And in the air, it's instead a bird who circles around you slowly. His specials definitely carry him a little bit. They're not amazing, but do make up for his normally short range. Next we have the main character of Hudson's main platformer series, who's also kind of based on a real person, Master Higgins, or Master Takahashi in Japan, who's from Adventure Island. Originally started as an NES adaptation of a Sega game, Wonder Boy, but was changed later in development because the rights had changed hands. And Adventure Island turned into a fairly decent seller for Hudson, enough to give it a decent number of games in the series. As for the man Master Higgins is based on, Toshiyuki Takahashi joined Hudson early on, joining around the time they released Lode Runner, getting fairly popular and even having a bunch of other stories related to his time there, but that's a whole other video topic. What's funny is that they also use a picture of him in Master Higgins' bio in the library, which I think is kind of cool. He even voiced the character for the first and sadly last time here. As for his moveset, he's actually really good. Probably top 5 at least. His jab and nair do a ton of damage, and his up air has a really big hitbox on top of also doing good damage. And his stage control with his specials, the axes, the spears, and the torches is insane. So yeah, really good character. Our resident fighting game character, Yugo, hailing from the Bloody Roar series, unfortunately kinda sucks. Bloody Roar came out after one member of Hudson had the idea of making a fighting game where the gimmick was having characters transform into beast forms, and Yugo was a fairly decent choice for repping the series since he's basically the mascot. Sadly, his moveset suffers from just being slow, without any of the upstarts that could come from being slow. The specials are okay, the 2-hit combo does decent shield damage, the forward dash is a good attack, if you hit it, and the uppercut and dive sounds good, but again, it's just got way too much end lag. His normals are basically the same way. The best moves he's got are probably the up air and the nair. Shane the fighting game character is one of the worst ones, but it's nice to see Yugo make some kind of appearance outside of Bloody War at least. Now we have probably my favorite character on the roster, Manjimaru. Hudson actually has its own RPG series, believe it or not, called Tengai Makyo, or The Far East of Eden. Most people overseas would probably recognize this character through the one game localized, Kabuki Clash, the fighting game spin-off. The series' second game is also where Manjimaru hails from. As for his moveset, he's essentially the Link of this game. Good sword normals with extra sauce and his specials that don't use a sword, with you being able to switch between 2 different sets of specials. Fire has you throw a fireball and have a pillar of fire appear above you, and lightning has a bunch of thunder strikes appear in front of you and a pair of shots upwards in a Y shape. He's just a really fun character. He's got good moves and overall just plays really well. His disjoints with his sword especially make his normals really good. And finally, we have another character from Momotaro Densetsu, Bimbogami, the Japanese god of poverty. And unfortunately, it's kind of a whimper to end on. He's pretty much just a Dan Hibiki type joke character where he kinda sucks. He's unbelievably slow, and his attacks are just okay. His special has him send out a die, and what happens is random. Either some kind of attack can happen depending on what color question mark it lands on. You can do a very good attack with a special face side. I don't know what that's called. I never played the games. Or Bimbogami can be turned into a baby with only one ground attack. He's not as bad as Microman, but he's not exactly good either. And that's all the characters. So now, how about we talk about the stuff you can play as them in? Starting off with World Fighters mode, the setup for the mode and the game as a whole is that there's a TV station called DreamX TV, which hosts a weekly sports program, and has also sadly been struggling in the ratings recently. So the host, Mujo from the Bomberman series, decides to invite a cast of famous people to fight out in hopes that they'll bring in a lot of viewers and get the ratings back up, and also appease the sponsors. Once Mujo is ready to announce the event, new co-host Haruna, who was made specifically for this game, appears to explain the rules. And then afterwards, it's just a bunch of shenanigans involving the two, such as Haruna getting hyped up by the previous match and mistakenly punching the living daylights out of Mujo, and also Mujo getting crushed by a disco ball Haruna was standing on. And before the final fight, Mujo is a bit worried that the sponsors would be upset that the competition ended as quickly as it did, and Haruna reveals that she had Mujo's gang build a UFO, which Haruna kicks Mujo into to start the final battle. The boss is overall fairly easy. You can shoot a big laser, shoot a few small lasers that bounce off walls, drop bombs, and summon gang members to shoot triangles that go in a diagonal angle. It's fine, but not amazing. Also, shoutouts to TF Wiki for translating this. Y'all are awesome. And other than that, it's pretty much it. It's just basically your standard arcade ladder. But there is one unique aspect though. Depending on how well you do and keep the fighting going and not stalling, you have a percentage meter that can go up, and that determines your rank at the end. And if you can get 100% rating in any match, you get an A rank automatically. And it's actually pretty easy to get one on Mujo's fight. Just get him down to Super Pinch State, and then once you get him there, get hit, and that'll get his health back, but you lose just enough to gain more percentage every time you hit him. Also remember to grab the coins that spawn, and hit the gang members when they appear. And if you do that, you should be able to get 100% fairly easily. It's overall just your standard arcade mode, nothing too special. The real interesting single-player content is the Caravan mode, its name being a reference to the Hudson All Japan Caravan Festival, a video game themed competition held annually by Hudson from 1985 to 2000. Having players get high scores. Pretty much the idea of all these challenges too, playing interesting minigames and get high scores. So let's take a look. First up is Life Attack, where you try and pick up as many life coins as spit out of the coin shooter before time runs out. Next is Punch the Bomber, where you punch bombs that Devastator shoots out before they blow, getting more points for how many bombs you can attack without one blowing up. Then we have Kayara Dama no Ochi, where you have to collect a thing that looks like a soul enough to win in a certain amount of time. Pick up and throw. Very straightforward name for a very straightforward challenge. You pick up a ball with this grab button and throw it at balloons. Gain more points for how many balloons you hit with one ball. Hanging on uses the ledge grab mechanic to make you grab 20 coins before time runs out, and your high scores are determined on how much time is left. And the mechanic is also really finicky with what does and doesn't count as a grab, so yeah, this was a bit annoying. Kayara Dama is a sequel with Kayara Dama 2, Electric Boogaloo, where it's on the Far East of Eden stage this time, and you have to get more of them in a stricter time limit. Succeed with Guard has you blocking beach balls on the Adventure Island stage. Thankfully the spawns aren't random, so it is still kind of skill based, but just do not go for first place points. You will hate yourself. Kayara Dama Castle is the last in the trilogy of Kayara Dama, where you're now playing as Simon on the Castlevania stage trying to dodge Medusa heads. Again, do not try and go for first place. Caravan mode is fun. It's not that fun when going for high scores, but just trying to win is a decent way to spend a couple minutes. Now that we're done with gameplay, let's take a bit to talk about graphics, music, and presentation. I think the graphics look overall fine. The models are all good, even if they kind of clash with each other, probably because a lot of the models are reused from other games. The music, though, slaps. From the sick remix of Bloody Tears, to the nice Metal Gear theme, to the upbeat main theme of Dream Mix, It's just a fun soundtrack. And finally, for the presentation, I'd say it's pretty good. The menus are easy to navigate, even with the language barrier, and they've also got some decent style to them. The cutscenes are also, while a bit stiff, fairly decent as well. And that's really it. That's Dream XT World Fighters in a nutshell. It's unbalanced, it's weird, it has a ton of odd decisions, it is clearly trying to do what Smash does, but as a whole, I'd still say it's worth playing. Just don't go into it expecting anything that can compete with Smash. Just try to have fun. And that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and next time will probably take a bit to come out, but trust me, I got something real interesting to cover next time. And Haruna reveals that she had Mujo's Hige Hige game built. Hige Hige. Mujo's Hige Hige game. I cannot say that.